Live from the heartland and the crossroads of America, it's Tony Katz Today.
When someone is destroying themselves, don't get in the way. I mean, if you like them, get in the way. But if you don't like them, if you're not a fan, let's argue that they are your political opponent. Don't get in the way. Don't change the story. Just let them destroy themselves. That's all I ask. I ask that we be a group of competent, cogent people. And when someone is ruining themselves, we let them do exactly that. What we should not do is this.
The greatest president in my lifetime, she said. I will never run against him. Then she comes over to see me at Mar-a-Lago. Sir, I will never run against you. She brought her husband. Where's her husband? Oh, he's away. He's away. What happened to her husband? What happened to her husband? Where is he? He's gone. He knew. But no, think of this. I will never run against you, sir, but it's all over tape. We've got like 19 versions. The great Dan Scavino, he made 19 versions of it. I will never run against him. Will you run against him? I will never. A little while later, I'd like to announce my candidacy. We don't need people like this. And I'll tell you what, she did a job. She was fine. She was okay. But I didn't put her there because I wanted her there at the United Nations. That was up to me. I wanted to take your lieutenant governor, who's right here, and make him governor. That's what I wanted.
So this was all just a play. You just dealt with Nikki Haley so you could get a new governor. Stop it. You liked her and you know you did. You see, first you weren't friends and then you said we're friends and you liked her and it's fine. And she is running because it's politics and that's the way it goes. But where's her husband? What are you doing? Why are you getting in the way? There is one news story out there, and it is that Joe Biden is incompetent, is incapable. He is decrepit. He is in serious mental decline, and the 25th Amendment has got to get started. And what are you doing, Mr. President? What are you doing, Donald Trump? Get out of the way. I can't believe I have to be the guy who brings this up. Tony Katz Today. Good to be with you. 833-468-8669, 833-GOT-TONY. That's where you get to be a part of the show. And, of course, check out the live stream, Rumble or YouTube, wherever you get yourself a good live stream. Drives me crazy. I have said this about Trump 19 million times. The unenforced error, the self-inflicted leg shot, it's mixed martial arts. It's UFC. Very rarely does one leg kick take out a fighter. That's super rare. Like sometimes the kick will be so intense that a fighter will break their own leg. Leg kicks freak me out. They always have. But it's rarely just one. It's the accumulation of leg kicks that do you in. The accumulation of leg kicks. You keep getting that hit. You cannot center yourself. And anybody who's ever thrown a punch, when you're throwing the punch, it is about how you're able to move those hips. I don't know if they would call it torque, how you get around. You may have some arm strength, but it's nothing if you're able to put the weight of your body into it and behind it and really get the full punch going. You need to be able to have your legs in order to do that. You need to be able to have the stance and bear the weight. Leg kicks take that away from you. Getting hit with leg kicks again and again and again and again eventually takes away your ability to punch, and nothing has happened to your arms. It's all connected. I equate leg kicks to self-inflicted wounds. I hate self-inflicted wounds. And I think this is one of them. What are you getting in the way for, Donald Trump? Get out of the damn way. Do not be the story when the story is so destructive to the guy you're running against. You want to tell a story. And you may argue, Tony, Trump's not running against Nikki Haley. It's Nikki Haley. She's down 30 points in South Carolina, and she isn't going to make a comeback for 30 points. Point granted. I'll give. Why create any other story? Why not force Democrats to be able to have conversations, force them into having conversations like this one?
So I think that's a really interesting point that I hadn't heard. And I do agree that it is important to, norms are important, right? The reason we're so far along here is because norms have not been followed. I would say I don't think that Her is a good faith actor. And I think that 345 pages of that show that. I mean, he's not a neurologist, right? If you want to weigh in on legal things, that's fine. But, the idea, and again, to fault.
That's Molly Jong-Fast of Vanity Fair, who is ridiculous. Robert Hur, the special counsel, who referred to Joe Biden as an elderly man with a nice elderly man with poor memory, describing how he couldn't remember when he was vice president. He could not remember within years the death of his son, Beau Biden. Well, he's not a neurologist. You don't have to be a neurologist to notice that somebody has lost their step. You don't have to be a neurologist in order to say that guy's not okay. I don't have to be a biologist to know what a woman is. I don't need to be a neurologist to know whether or not my grandpa's doing all right. Isn't it better that we're having this conversation regarding Joe Biden's incapacity, meaning we're focused on the subject that matters? We're focused on the fact that this man is incapable. He's mentally incapable of doing the job. He can't stand trial, but he can be president. How in the world does one engage that conversation in a rational way? That's what we should be talking about. No, instead, we're having to talk about Trump and his going after Haley's husband. Haley's husband, by the way, is serving in the military. Why are you asking where her husband is? Now, it's not like Haley responded well.
Donald Trump had a rally today. And in that rally, he mocked my husband's military service. And I'll say this. Donald, if you have something to say, don't say it behind my back. Get on a debate stage and say it to my face.
She just missed the whole damn point. Get on a debate stage? What is that going to do? If you want to go after Trump for having his own mental issues, you say Donald Trump doesn't know my husband's serving in the military? Doesn't he know that my husband is serving so he can say dumb things like that on air? He doesn't know that, and you go after him. Why doesn't he debate me? That is a boring argument. Talk about missing your moment. You don't even get to seethe properly, Nikki Haley. Good gosh. He didn't say it behind your back. He said it in front of thousands of people in South Carolina. Even when you're given the opportunity, Nikki Haley, you screw it up. That is stunning. I hate the unenforced error. I hate. It's like Madeline Kahn in Clue. Seething, burning flames out of the side of my face. It drives me nuts. But maybe nothing is crazier than how people took Trump's conversation regarding NATO nations paying their fair share, or really just what they owe.
They asked me that question. One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
That was taken by people I like and people I don't like. Oh, I'm going to try not to curse on radio. I'm pretty sure you don't get paid that way. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure if I unleash, I don't get paid, and I like getting paid, so I'm going to try and find a way to do this. Donald Trump did not state as a policy, I favor Russia attacking NATO nations and doing whatever the hell they want. That is not what happened here. Not by any stretch of the imagination is that what happened. Here's what happened. Donald Trump put together in that moment, and it's so obvious that it's kind of hard to fathom anybody seeing it otherwise. A conversation of, well, let's say we didn't pay. Let's say we didn't pay. What's the worst that could happen? What Trump put together right there, which anybody who has any life experience whatsoever would have put together. He put together a conversation about how a conversation could go. Tommy, so let's say I don't pay you nothings. Let's say I know you tell me I gotta pay. You're like, Paulie, you gotta pay. Well, that's true, Paulie, you gotta pay. You say to me, Paulie, I gotta pay, but I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay. And let's say somebody bothers me. Tommy, let's say somebody bothers me. What are you gonna do? You're not gonna protect me? You're not gonna protect me? Paulie, listen to me. Listen to me, Paulie, listen to me, Paulie. You gotta pay for the protection. What am I gonna do? I'm not getting paid. How am I supposed to protect you? Something bad happens. These things happen. You know what I mean? It's gosh, jeepers. You know, if you had paid, you wouldn't have to worry. It wouldn't even be a question. Wouldn't even be a conversation. You wouldn't have to worry about these things. But you don't pay. I don't even know. I don't know what could happen. I don't even want to think of such a thing. That's such a terrible thought. If I were you, I'd pay. Because I don't know. I don't want to think about it the other way. That's what Trump is saying. That's as obvious as the day is long. That's what Donald Trump is saying. Anybody who thinks otherwise is out of their head. Do you think that was Trump putting forth a theory that he hopes that Russia attacks other nations? If Trump had been president, the odds are that Ukraine wouldn't even have been attacked. So what is the argument here that he favors this idea that somehow other nations should be attacked? It is so blank and ridiculous on its face, and I'm sick and tired of children. I'm exhausted by people who have zero life experience. People so desperate to go after someone, to engage the attack, they don't take a moment to say, wait a second, what got said here? Go back and listen again to what it is that Trump actually said here.
They asked me that question. One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
Are you telling me that everyone didn't understand that this was a conversation, even if it happened, that Trump would have in private with another world leader to get him to do what he wants? What's the matter? You don't think that the United States has ever put the squeeze on someone before? You don't think the United States has ever engaged in trying to pressure someone before? Let's at least all grow up. Of course we have. Of course, that's what diplomacy is. Diplomacy is pressure. You're not going to pay? Best of luck figuring out that Russian onslaught. You know, those guys will just throw bodies at you. They don't give a damn. Oh, Putin doesn't care who dies. As long as he gets caviar, he's just keep throwing bodies right at. They're going to be flying like it's a Monty Python skit. Just one right after another. You really think that's his policy? Let Russia do whatever the hell they want? Do you know how absolutely ignorantly stupid you have to be to believe that? That isn't what he said. When he talks about Nikki Haley's husband, I think it's the dopiest thing he could do. Make Joe Biden the story, Joe Biden's incompetence the story, Joe Biden's lack of mental capacity the story, and look at all the progressives desperate. They'll lie, they'll do anything to somehow get you to believe that Joe Biden's fine. He's not fine. They're more interested in power than they are in the country. That's who they are. Don't get in the way of us noticing that. Be somebody who says you guys should notice this. Don't make it about yourself. Don't be cute. Don't be special. For the love of God, let Joe Biden lose. Just win by letting him lose. But I'm going to have so-called intellectuals on the political right saying this is what Trump said, this is his policy on Russia. It's so ignorant that somebody would actually think that's what he meant. Based on what he said, and you just heard it, that it boggles the mind. Man, the self-inflicted wound or ignorance, which one is worse? Oh, no, wait. Sometimes they're the same. I'm Tony Katz.
Earth is strong, wages are rising, inflation is down. In fact, the costs have fallen from a gallon of gas to a gallon of milk. We know prices are still too high because of what I call greedflation and shrinkflation.
That's Joe Biden. He wants you to know the prices are too high, and he wants you to know it's because of those terrible companies. Did you see him, that video before the Super Bowl? Disgusting. He doesn't do the interview at the Super Bowl, which is free advertising, and he desperately needs it for a presidential race because he's not up to an interview. He's not up to it. He can barely just read off the teleprompter. But he can sit there and tell you that companies are greedy and evil. I don't believe in greed, but evil and terrible because they're putting less ice cream in a container and charging you the same amount. How about economic reality? Nobody likes shrinkflation. We're all opposed to it. You don't take a look at your own economic policies and what that may have contributed to it? They're just greedy? Well, how much do they owe you? Why does ice cream come in a half gallon? Shouldn't it come in a 27-gallon tub but be the same exact price as the half gallon? I mean, if not, well, then we just have to nationalize these companies. Literally how he's talking, it's so gross. It is so, he hates entrepreneurs, not because I said so, but because he said so. Tony Katz today, what's going on? Oh, he wasn't done.
The American infrastructure plan used to, we used to be the best in the world in infrastructure. Literally, we were ranked number one in the world.
Do I know what? He said, you know.
The American infrastructure plan used to, we used to.
Like he wanted to say something, but he didn't quite remember what it is he was going to say. He just didn't remember how that was going to go about, which is funny because as we've all said, it's clear that Joe Biden is not all there, not okay, doesn't have his mind. He has a very, very bad memory. It's clear that he's got problems. Funny, Alejandro Mayorkas doesn't think so.
The most difficult part about a meeting with President Biden is preparing for it because he is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
That is the Secretary of Homeland Security campaigning for his boss. I mean, that's what it is. Isn't that right, Senator Coons?
The White House.
Jonathan, I don't know what the White House will or won't disclose, but here's what I know of the president I work with and alongside whom I serve. When I came back from the Middle East with a bipartisan group of 10 senators, we went to Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. I thought the president might have us over to the White House for 15, 20 minutes. He had us in at 7 o'clock at night. We sat down with his national security team, and for 2.5 hours, he went around the table and asked for our insights and our input, and then he led a masterful conversation about the challenges to our security, the pathway to peace, the difficulties with Iran and with its proxies. And as we walked out 2.5 hours later from the White House, I turned to one of my Republican colleagues who is not publicly a big fan of the president. And I said, what did you think? And he said, that's incredible. This is a man who is sharp, who is on top of his game, who knows what's going on in the Middle East and around the world.
No one believes you, Senator Coons. No one. And in all of these conversations regarding Biden's mind, you get what Mitch Landrieu, who he's the former governor of Louisiana, or is he the former mayor of New Orleans? I always forget. Is he the former governor, or is he the former mayor of just New Orleans? Mayor of New Orleans. He was lieutenant governor of Louisiana. Okay, so I do have that right. He was the lieutenant governor and he was the mayor. There it is. You see, that isn't a conversation of age. That's a conversation of, I don't study Louisiana politics that much. I know the name, and I know he served one of those capacities. That's different than Joe Biden saying, I'm talking to a dead guy, Francois Mitterrand, the former president of France who died in 1996. But all of these guys, when confronted with the reality that Joe Biden isn't okay, all have one defense, but Trump.
Well, let's just say two things. This election is going to be about two men, but really two different visions for the country. President Trump just the other night confused what day of the week it was. He has confused who the leader of North Korea and China are. He's confused the leaders of Hungary and Turkey. By the way, Speaker Mike Johnson was on the other day, and he confused Iraq and Iran. And, of course, President Trump doesn't know the difference between Nancy Pelosi and Nikki Haley. And, oh, by the way, last night President Trump saw fit to basically dump on Nikki Haley's husband, who is serving in the military right now because he has...
Never mind that part of it, which you've already heard, I'm not happy with. All of the things that Mitch Landrieu just stated are reasons not to vote for Donald Trump. But if those are reasons not to vote for Donald Trump, then it's certainly a reason to get Joe Biden away from the button. You can't let him be in charge. He's not cogent. It's not safe, you weirdos. Why are you acting like it is? It's not safe. But they cannot go a moment without saying but Trump. But Trump is a ridiculous statement, one of weakness and truly a pathetic nature. But Trump says, I'm unwilling to debate, but rather my feelings must be expressed. Your feelings, not you, I shouldn't say you, their feelings are crap. Your feelings are ridiculous. Your feelings show you to be a beta male. Your feelings show that I can only hope you don't procreate, because holy hell, are you going to raise some terrible kids, and it's not their fault that they're never going to know of having a mind and a soul and thinking of things logically. Instead, they've got this hyper-emotional freak as a parent who can't get over the fact that their loving candidate is simply incapable of doing the job. So instead of dealing with that reality, they scream, but Trump. Pathetic stuff. Jill Biden has added to this. Jill Biden is angry because of what it is the special counsel did, trying to earn political points, talking about the death of her son, Beau Biden. That is not what happened. That is not what happened. The First Lady lashing out because the special counsel, Robert Hur, H-U-R is the last name, said that Joe Biden is an old man, poor memory, nice guy, but couldn't remember when he was vice president, and could not remember within years the death of when his son, Beau Biden, died. And Joe Biden states, I hope you can imagine how it felt to read that attack, not just as Joe's wife, but as Beau's mother. She wrote this in an email to donors. I don't know what the special counsel was trying to achieve. We should give everyone grace, and I can't imagine someone would try to use our son's death to score political points. No. You have it all wrong. No one's trying to score political points. It's that your husband didn't remember. Because your husband has memory issues. Because your husband isn't okay. Because your husband can't be president. And I don't really care if you're bothered by it. You are under the impression, Joe Biden, and this is going to seem personal, and it is, you're under the impression that a man noticing that another man cannot remember when his son died might be a problem. You think that that's insulting. I think it's insulting that you think that your husband, who is mentally incapable, could put my kids at risk. The memory of your son is sacrosanct. How dare anybody even mention him? But your husband putting my children at risk because he's incapacitated, that's fine? Dr. Joe Biden, who the hell are you? Are you out of your head? Why would you think this way? You know, by the way, I feel bad about that one. I shouldn't you say, who the hell are you? That's amongst the cheapest stuff. I'm better than that. I got a million quips, darling. I can do better than that. Why do you think that your son's memory is more important than my kid's existence? That's a heavy, heavy question. And yet I'm asking it. And I am probably the first. I get used to that. Why is that your son's memory is more important than my child's existence? And we can say this not just about my children. You can say this about every kid in America. Because none of these kids are safe while your husband has access to the button. While your husband can make deals that enslave and destroy. Your husband talks to dead people. Your husband cannot complete a sentence. Your husband does not know where he is. So, how come that's okay and my kids should grow up in that fear factory? But we can't notice if your husband forgot when his own son died? I didn't say he forgot his son. I didn't say he doesn't love his son or miss his son. I believe all these things to be true. He loves and misses his son. But he forgot. It's not scoring political points. It's a recognition of why Robert Hur did not put Joe Biden on the stand. Which, by the way, he willfully took classified documents, and that alone is impeachable. No? It's kind of, it is of course obscene, but it's kind of odd to see people screaming about this thing and then not recognizing that Joe Biden has no privilege. Dr. Joe Biden, maybe she's got a little bit of privilege, but not in this. Not in this. Other people's children should be in danger, but somehow your child can't be discussed in terms of your husband's memory. That's, methink thou doth protest too much. Which brings us to Hillary Clinton, who has decided that Joe Biden's age is indeed an issue that should be discussed.
Okay, people, move along. There's nothing to see here.
Well, that's something. Does Hillary Clinton actually think she can get the nomination? Hillary Clinton is not so crazy as to think the Democratic Party is coming back her way. I mean, I just can't. There's no way she thinks this. That the Democratic Party is going to be so desperate, they're going to go back to her. There's nobody else? I'd be inclined to think that the Democratic Party would rather have Kamala Harris than Hillary Clinton. But, you know, what are the odds of that? I rest my case. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. So there was a shooting that took place The shooting took place at Joel Osteen's church in Texas. Now, my expertise regarding Joel Osteen is zero. Just I think he's an odd dude, but hey, you might like him. Who am I to say that? I've never met him. Tony Katz today. What's going on, everybody? The story is, and here's how CNN reported it. A woman who walked into a popular Texas megachurch Sunday afternoon with a long gun and young child opened fire before she was killed by law enforcement officers on the scene. Left the child in critical condition and another man injured. This was Lakewood Church, 6 miles from downtown Houston. That's how the story gets reported. Why did she have the gun? Why was she going in? Whose baby? All these things. And then you hear that it is not as it seems. That the shooter, as described now, was a migrant from El Salvador, a criminal history dating back to 2005, and a woman who thought they were a man. The shooter being transgender, this according to the Libs of TikTok account. And also, I believe Fox News has the story. Previously went by the name of Jeffrey. So the question is, how quickly does this story disappear? It is also being reported, and of course this reporting can change, that this person was a supporter of Bernie Sanders and had on her gun, because it was actually a woman, claimed to be a man, a sticker that read, "Free Palestine." Now, I am willing to state that all of this could change, and all of this could be real. When reports like this come out, I sometimes I don't even mention them. I wait to get the data. Sometimes I say, guys, especially, for example, when there's some horrible shooting, numbers change. They fluctuate. They go up, they go down. They get revised all the time. And so sometimes what gets said at the first does not necessarily refer to or mean that that's going to be the way it is. You know who never revises their numbers? Hamas. Hamas has got a perfect count of all the women and children Israel's killed. Like you trust a terrorist organization. But never once do they revise their numbers down. Oh, we miscalculated here. They're always perfect. No running water, but they always have perfect numbers. We're going to keep up with this, and now we're going to ask ourselves the question, if this is all the case, as we're now getting the news stories, Fox News has and others, how quickly will this story disappear? How quickly will the news not talk about somebody who has a mental disorder engaged in a shooting? We're going to find out soon enough. This is Tony Katz Today. Find everything at TonyKatz.com.
They're certainly scratching their head. They're fighting and dying for their freedom and their democracy. But let's be clear here. When we say this is aid, this is not charity. We're not giving this as a charitable contribution to Ukraine. We're doing this because this is in America's national security interest. You know, to have a stable and prosperous Europe. Europe is our single largest economic trading partner. We have 100,000 troops in Europe. Europe is our largest security partner. And for less than 5% of our annual defense budget, we are securing Europe. We are protecting our troops. Ukraine is doing the fighting. They have destroyed over half of Russia's military. And oh, by the way, over half of this money actually goes directly to American workers and American businesses who are building the weapons and equipment that we're sending to Ukraine. So this is actually a really good deal. And, you know, the rest of the world and certainly a lot of Americans know this is a good deal. That's why we have to get it over the finish line.
This is a very odd conversation from Congressman Jason Crow, a Democrat of Colorado, because he is making an argument about why it is in America's best interest to support Ukraine in their fight against Russia. And I've made this argument. Of course it's in America's best interest. Of course Russia should be held at bay. Of course you don't want Russia on NATO's doorstep in Poland. You don't want these things. Let me say for the record, if you don't think that Russia is an expansionist power with expansionist ideals, I don't think you understand Vladimir Putin and how much this former KGB agent, never former, I should say, takes it personally that the Soviet Union fell. I'm sorry. I think Tucker's completely wrong if he thinks that Russia is not an expansionist power. That's just not in any way, as far as I'm concerned, that doesn't comport with the reality. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. I'm glad he did the interview. Now we can discuss the policy. We can have agreements and disagreements about the policy. The issue with Congressman Crow here is that he called it a good deal for America. That's awkward. Maybe you missed this part of it again. Let me play.
Money actually goes directly to American workers and American businesses who are building the weapons and equipment that we're sending to Ukraine. So this is actually a really good deal. And the rest of the world and
that is a really ugly thing to say. This is a conversation about honesty, making sure that we have clarity, not necessarily one of agreement. We can disagree about something, but we at least have to be discussing what it is that we're talking about. Supporting Ukraine against Russia is not about thinking Ukraine is great. I don't think Vladimir Zelensky is great. I don't think the nation of Ukraine is great. I haven't thought about Ukraine until the last, basically 8 years. Ukraine has never come up in my head. I didn't realize how many people who were members of Congress themselves or had family members making money off of these countries like Ukraine. Holy cow. I missed out on a lot of loot. That's honesty. Trump making a phone call? Not an impeachable offense. Joe Biden absolutely, positively, without question, trying to influence things for his kid and $4. I think that happened, and I think this proves it.
I remember going over convincing our team, or others, to convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I'm not going to, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
Sure. I think that audio needs to get played all the time, maybe daily, as a reminder of what actually took place in Ukraine and who actually was involved in some very, very dirty activities. I have no illusions about Ukraine at all. I simply believe that it is better off that Russia is not allowed to advance, because I have no belief that Russia plans on stopping. That's not who Putin is. He is a murderer, he is a thug, and he is a liar. These are the realities. You don't like the term thug? Pick another term. Go right ahead. Still factual. But it's good for us because we get to sell them the weapons? That's what Congressman Crow just said there.
Oh, by the way, over half of this money actually goes directly to American workers and American businesses who are building the weapons and equipment that we're sending to Ukraine. So this is actually a really good deal.
It's a good deal that we send these weapons because our people are getting paid. The spending is not a good deal. We don't know necessarily where the money has gone. No one can keep track of anything. To say that it's a good deal is to miss the forest for the trees. As we often discuss, the left always overplays their hand. And they did it again on MSNBC. Morning Joe, which used to be the intellectual show. By the way, I had people last week commenting about Noah Rothman being very, very respectful, because I was not, of Morning Joe, because Noah used to be on that show before they went nuts No, he used to be on that show as a contributor, and now they have Molly Jong Fast to. That's her name, Molly Jong Fast, JONG-FAST. That's her last name, and a progressive. And if you don't want Noah and you want her, well, you're telling us something. And so he was at least, respectful of Joe and Mika. And some people are like, is he crazy? Dude, he's a decent cat. He's just a decent person. Leave him be. But this was Morning Joe, Molly Jong Fast, talking about Robert Hur, the special counsel who looked into Joe Biden and the classified documents, where he was holding the classified documents, willfully had the classified documents, and said, I'm not going to charge him because he's an elderly man with a poor memory. He couldn't remember this. He doesn't remember when he was vice president. He could not remember within years when his son Beau died. Oh, and Joe Biden's all upset about it. I already discussed that. I'm not going to listen to her even pretend to hold some level of righteousness on this subject. I want you to hear what Molly Jong Fast had to say.
So I think that's a really interesting point that I hadn't heard, and I do agree that it is important to, norms are important, right? The reason we're so far along here is because norms have not been followed. I would say I don't think that Hur is a good faith actor, and I think that 345 pages of that show that. I mean, he's not a neurologist, right? If you want to weigh in on legal things, that's fine. But, the idea, and again, to fault someone for saying they don't remember during a deposition, when we've seen people like Dr. Anthony Fauci say that hundreds of times during a deposition, that's what you're supposed to say if you don't remember, because you don't want to be wrong.
Let's be clear about something here. This is not an argument. This is a defense for your political ambitions. You do not have to be a neurologist to notice that grandpa isn't okay. Noticing that grandpa is not okay is why you take him to a neurologist. What a ridiculous garbage commentary from Molly Jong Fast. This is pseudo-intellectualism, except it's worse. This is clear pravda. This is clear narrative seeking. None of this makes sense. Shame on Robert Hur, last name H-U-R, Hur, the special counsel, for noticing that Joe Biden was slow and didn't remember things. You don't have to be a neurologist to notice that stuff. People notice those things. They notice when grandpa has slipped, when he's missing a step. They notice when grandma can't figure out how to make the recipe for the cookies she's always made for 5 decades. They notice and they say, hey, maybe we should get this checked out. How dare you notice? Didn't they do this to another reporter? Was it? I want to say it was Sasha Burns. Wasn't she the one? Dasha Burns. And wasn't she the one? She's the one who lately has been super argumentative and has got the slick back hair. It's been interesting. Is she the one who said that Biden had been slowing down and had gotten attacked for it? Oh, she's the one who said about John Fetterman that he couldn't respond to questions, and the left went crazy. The left went on a full attack about her. How dare you say this? But he couldn't answer the questions. He's better now. He's much better now. But then he wasn't. He could not answer the questions. He had no idea where he was. I mean, this is, I actually have it. This was that clip.
We did find that in small talk before the interview without captioning, it seemed it was difficult for Fetterman to understand our conversation.
You don't need to be a neurologist to say that. You just need to be normal. You need to be able to take a look at something and say, that's off. That's not right. What the left is asking you to do in this situation is to go against your ability to recognize. This is Malcolm Gladwell's Blink. So the book Blink, Malcolm Gladwell, he wrote The Tipping Point. So Blink is, I always describe it this way. The book is Blink, The Power of Thinking Without Thinking. So it goes to this idea that sometimes you know something and you don't know why. You are related to something, or you connect with something or don't connect with something, you don't know why. And I think it's the beginning of the book. Blink is about, you see an artist or an art critic sees a piece of artwork, and it's a famous piece of artwork, but there's something off about it. There's something wrong with it. They don't know what it is, but they know something isn't right. And then, the art turns out to be a fake. How does the brain recognize something, or how do you notice something is an issue, and then what do you do about it? Man, I hope that's a good way of describing what it is that's going on there. Some of the theory there. But the point I make from this is, when something isn't right. You have instincts, you have a gut, you have a mind. You're able to say to yourself, wait a second, something is very, very off here. There's a problem here. There's an issue. Do you really think you have to spend much time listening to Joe Biden to realize, ooh, that guy is old. Ooh, that guy is frail. Ooh, that guy doesn't speak well. Ooh, that guy doesn't make any sense. Ooh, that guy jumbles his words. Ooh, that guy is talking to dead people. I am not a neurologist, but I know that Joe Biden has claimed to have had conversations with people who are dead, like Francois Mitterrand, the former president of France. You're asking me not to notice? You're asking me not to pay attention? It's one thing if you say to me, okay, well, this is just a gaffe.
When we pushed all these programs, I said I'm going to be a president for everybody, whether you live in a red state or a green state.
It's red state or blue state. And you could say, well, that's just a gaffe. It's no big deal. Except he does a lot of these. It's every day with him. Every single day. And then he follows it up by saying he talks to dead people.
Right after I was elected, I went to what they call a G7 meeting, all the NATO leaders. It was in the south of England. And I sat down and I said, America's back. And Mitterrand from France looked at me and said, how long are you back for?
Seems I'm the only person who focuses on the fact that it was an absolutely terrible joke. But the bigger story here is that Mitterrand died in 1996. He corrects himself between Germany and France, doesn't correct himself that he didn't speak to a dead person while he was president, because he didn't, unless he thinks he did, in which case I'm allowed to say that guy's not all right, and I don't have to be a neurologist to do it. I don't have to be a neurologist. This is the standard they throw up, but that standard is bunk. What they decide is, well, this is unacceptable or that's unacceptable. None of that is true. We should favor funding Ukraine because it's good for us because we get to make the guns? That's a weird thing to say. That is a weird argument, and you're allowed to notice that argument is a bad one, and it's bad faith, and it's indecent. And the argument that Molly Jong-Fast is making on MSNBC with Morning Joe is an indecent argument. He's not a neurologist. No, he's not. He's just sharing with us what it is he observed. And it's what you've observed. Oh, he also observed that Joe Biden willfully had classified documents, willfully took them. And for that, I think there's enough there to go after the man, by the way. You don't need to be a neurologist. You just have to have a mind. And if Democrats had one, they'd be working on how they get rid of him. For the good of the country, Joe Biden has to go. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. The only proper way to describe it is as a 3-day infomercial. That's what the NBA All-Star Game is. 3 days of focusing on Indianapolis, therefore focusing on Indiana. Therefore, an opportunity to reach people who don't think about the state, who don't consider it. Oh, I need someplace to go. I guess I got to move to Texas. Why? Why? Well, it's warmer. Yeah, it's also way more humid than Indiana. You better believe it. The idea that somehow people want to say, well, it makes sense because Indiana just isn't. Oh, kitten. Don't play that game with me. Indiana should be constantly putting its best foot forward, and this is a way to do it. Tony Katz Today. Good to be with you. The NBA All-Star Game, regardless of whether you watch the game or not, regardless of anything else, great way for Indianapolis and Indiana, all of Indiana, to benefit. Gerry Dick joins me from InsideIndianaBusiness.com, on Twitter, at IIB, at Gerry Dick, Gerry. I keep saying Twitter. On X, at Gerry Dick, if you want to reach him personally. Let's talk about the money. Let's talk about the economic impact of the All-Star Game. What is it?
$320 million is the estimated economic impact of the All-Star Game. And you mentioned the delay. Folks may remember it was 2017 when Indianapolis, once again, doing what it does best and creating unique experiences. Larry Bird drove an Indy car through the streets of Manhattan to deliver the bid for the NBA All-Star Game to the NBA headquarters. That was for the 2021 game. Of course, the pandemic meant that was delayed until now. And after all these years, it's finally here.
But what it means for the city is not just, hey, the bars are going to be full for a couple nights, the restaurants are going to be full for a couple of nights. I assume this host committee and those people who really do create the growth see this as exactly as I described it. This is an infomercial for Indiana and gets people to recognize that we're here.
Yeah, and that's, I think that's a good way to describe it, Tony, an infomercial, because this is really putting the Indianapolis and the Indiana message out on a global stage. TNT has the broadcast rights for the game in the United States, but the broadcast is going to more than 200 countries, 200 countries and territories, 50 languages. They'll see Indianapolis all spruced up and ready to go this weekend. So it's a great opportunity there. The other piece, and I mentioned Indiana, the Indiana Economic Development Corporation is taking note of the fact that there are some 50 major corporations, AT&T, Nike, Google, who will all be here in town, as well as site selection consultants, those people who go around the country on behalf of companies and organizations looking for property, looking for places to invest. So this is an opportunity for the IEDC to get in the game and entertain and expose some of these people who perhaps have never been here before to what Indianapolis and Indiana are all about.
Talking to Gerry Dick from InsideIndianaBusiness.com, on the X at IIB. There are some other stories going on, and certainly this is one of the big ones. I think that within this story about the All-Star Game is that this was originally scheduled for 2021. I am actually wearing, I had gotten access to one of the zip-ups they had. It was, it says, all NBA All-Star 2021 Indianapolis. Like, I've got one of those. I'm wearing it as we speak. I was a little chilly, people. That's right, a little chilly in the downstairs studio. And people forget that this was when the All-Star Game was supposed to happen. But in the 3 years that have taken place because it got canceled because of COVID, what ends up happening is that Indianapolis gets a much better bite of the apple. They have a much better showing going on. Describe the differences between 2021 and today.
Well, they're stark, and I think it's appropriate to bring it up because you flash back to that period of time. It was very challenging for Indianapolis, in particular downtown Indianapolis, and communities around the country as well. Today, a much different story, and I think part of the story, Tony, that will be told this week as well as folks go out and speak with corporations and other types of folks trying to drum up business, is the billions of dollars in projects that are now underway in downtown Indy, including the $300+ million makeover of Gainbridge Fieldhouse, which is going to be on full display. What's planned for Circle Center, the Indy 11 stadium and that development, Elanco, multi-billion dollars of investment happening in downtown Indy. So a lot will be going on. I'm actually on my way to Gainbridge now, going to be speaking with Pacers co-owner Steve Simon, who has some definite thoughts about where the franchise is, where he wants it to go as well. Looking forward, that'll be on the show this week. And part of that picture that I know the Pacers are very intentional about is helping you engage downtown Indianapolis, investment projects and those types of things.
It's so amazing that this delay really did benefit Indiana as a whole, because you got to finish up the construction that was going on at Gainbridge as they were remodeling the whole place, and then you got the whole bicentennial Unity Plaza out there. I was actually walking by it the other day. It's nice. It is nice. There's no way around that, and it really does recreate a center of downtown for those people who live in that area. But really, it's about what this game does to put Indiana on the map. Danny Lopez is the Vice President of External Relations and Corporate Communications over at Pacer Sports and Entertainment. We were talking about the event itself. We were talking about who's coming, the artists that are coming, and exactly how nuts this thing has become.
Yeah, and this is obviously a big question. I know it's on a lot of people's minds. People want to know when they come downtown, one, how are they going to stay safe? How are we keeping people safe? And then also just generally, when you've got 125,000 people that are coming into an area like this, how do you get around? How is it easy? I mean, the beauty of a place like Indianapolis doing these events, it's one of the reasons that we're so good at these events, is that we have an actual campus. Everything's so connected to so many of the, if you got 8,500 hotel rooms or so in the area, more than half of them are connected by a pedestrian walkway that's covered, so it's easy to get around. You can get to the venues pretty easily. We've been working with the NBA. We've been working with IMPD. We've been working with state police and IDHS on a security plan, again, for the last 7 years we've been at this. Remember, Tony, that we started this all the way back in 2017. So we've been having these conversations on how to keep people safe in this kind of environment for a long time. The NBA does this better than anybody. And so it's going to be a good environment. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then do check out, and the other place you can go is pacers.com/allstar-info. There's really good interactive maps on there, so you can see what the traffic patterns are going to be like. And we've also designed two routes, a blue route and a gold route, that folks can follow to get around the downtown so they can work around the street closures. What I tell everybody is, look, the closer you get to the venues, obviously the more congested it's going to be and the more traffic there'll be, and some of the streets will be closed. For Friday and Saturday that are at Lucas Oil, most of the events are at Lucas Oil, expect something like a Colts game. It'll feel like a Colts game in that area. The rest of the time, it won't be onerous, but, there'll be some streets closed. So just make sure you get on there before you come downtown, check it out, know where you're going, and have an idea of where you want to park.
Talking to Danny Lopez, Vice President of External Relations and Corporate Communications for Pacer Sports and Entertainment, the Indiana Pacers. As this weekend comes up and you've got the events going on around town, were artists picked based on we think that this is encompassing the entirety of the fan base, or were artists picked on based on whoever said yes?
Oh, so I mean, the NBA that NBA handles that, not us, first of all. So I want to be careful. I don't want to speak for them, but I know that they do look at a mix. Last year was the same. All the ones that we've been to, the All-Stars that we've been to as we've been planning this process have been the same. They really tried to be inclusive in the way that they choose these acts to make sure that there's something for everybody when they're coming downtown, Tony. So, I mean, you're going to see a pretty healthy mix of different genres of music. And by the way, even what we control, like the DJs that we've contracted with to have downtown, even with that, we've ensured that we've got a pretty healthy mix of music genres so that when people are downtown, like they own the experience and that it's, custom made for them.
Now let's talk about the big stuff, which is tickets. What's sold out, what is not, and how would people, if there is something available, get them?
Yeah, so pretty much everything that we've put on sale for the major events have been sold out. These things go super quickly. Obviously, even stuff that aren't basketball events have sold out, like the opening tip. Although the one thing that there's tickets for that I would encourage people to do, because it's just an awesome experience, is the NBA crossover. So crossover is the NBA's version of Convention Center. Tony, this is the largest NBA crossover the league has ever done. So it's a massive footprint in the convention center, and you go in. We're going to have legends in there signing autographs. There's interactive exhibits. There's things for kids. There's hoops that kids can shoot on. There's music in there. There's all kinds of kind of like neat art things that are going on. So it's a really cool experience. You can go on NBAAllStar2024.com. There's tickets on there. They're reasonably priced for families. I think it's $35 for adults and $20 for kids. And you can come down there and spend a ton of time in there, which is a really fun and popular event.
Now, hold on, I'm going to interrupt you because you cut out on me for just a second. Describe it again. What is the NBA crossover?
So the NBA crossover is the NBA's version of FanFest, essentially. So think music and fashion and hoops that kids can shoot on and interactive exhibits, all kinds of those legends and alums that are coming in to sign autographs. All kinds of those types of interactive exhibits. This is, like I said, this is the largest one that the NBA has ever done at an All-Star like this. So it's a really big footprint at the convention center, and it's going to be a really good time. And the tickets there's obviously still tickets that people can purchase. They're reasonably priced at $35 for adults and $20 for kids. So that's a good time. I mean, if I bring my kids downtown for the weekend, that's what I'm looking at first. I want to make sure I check that out because that's going to be a lot of fun. So. And again, you might see tickets to HBCU, you might see tickets to some of the different events. Get on NBAAllStar2024.com because those things are updating constantly.
I don't think at this stage of the game you can find tickets. Danny Lopez of Pacer Sports and Entertainment, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I don't think you can find anything. But if you can, God bless. If you can afford it, we should be friends. That's all. That's all I'm saying. I had some friends reach out and like, hey, you're in Indy. You're a celebrity. Can you get some All-Star tickets? And I said, I don't think you understand what celebrity means because no, I'm not. And no, I can't. No, I am not. And no one is just getting the tickets. No one. It's just not happening that way. Everybody is spending. The NBA is getting paid, kitten, and getting paid huge. Oh. The most important thing about this weekend is a conversation of safety. It is. It's how safe will Indianapolis be? Because for all of us across the state, one big issue that does the damage, and that's of course the other side of this coin. It's one of the reasons why people are like, Olympics. Why in the world would we want to host the Olympics? It went from something of massive prestige to massive headache. It's not worth it. And if you have violence issues, you might find that it's not worth it. So that's the other side of it. This is the thing I got to assume that both the NBA and the Pacers organization are hoping beyond hope doesn't happen. No big issues like that in the state of Indiana. You got to hope for that. And I think it creates another thing, which is a big weird, sure, Indianapolis once again. You live in Muncie, you live in Bloomington. I get that math. Indianapolis once again. It's why I shouldn't say it's why I argue. I want to say that I argue two things in the same measure at the same time. First, the idea that so goes Indianapolis, so goes the state. It's true because it is the capital, because it does get so much attention. You want it to be successful. You want it to do well. You want it to grow. You want it to build. You want these events to work because it does have a residual, it does have a ripple effect all across the state. And it is why I always discuss that we need other cities doing well and thriving. Because Indianapolis needs competition, because if it doesn't have competition, it rests on its laurels. And have you met the elected officials out in Indy? Good Lord. These people are sad. They get the All-Star game not because they did anything, but because the people who built this city did something. They need the competition. They need to be pressured. They need to be challenged for business, for entertainment, for everything. It is clear that they need a challenge. So I want to bring more business to more places. I want to bring more opportunities to more places. In Indiana, force Indianapolis to be better. It forces the rest of the state to be better. And I think that circle's good for everybody. One man's opinion, one man's theory. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. So the Chiefs beat the 49ers 25-22 in overtime. And okay, I moved on. When does baseball begin? You know how many times I've said in my life, when does baseball begin? Never. I have never said, when does baseball begin? I just don't want to hear any more about it. Tony Katz Today. Mahomes is unstoppable. It's 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. He's been in the league for 6 years. That's the ball game. We're done. There's nothing else to talk about. He is who he is. That's all there is to it. Nothing more, nothing less. So, bring on baseball. I don't want to talk football anymore. The Lions couldn't beat the 49ers? Nonsense. The 49ers couldn't beat the Chiefs? Nonsense. The Ravens couldn't beat the Chiefs? Nonsense. The Bills couldn't beat the Chiefs? Nonsense. It's all nonsense. What am I supposed to say? I don't know. Maybe I just have an anti-dynasty thing. I find it boring. Maybe I'm not alone in that. It has zero to do with the Taylor Swift stuff. Zero to do with the Taylor Swift stuff. That part doesn't move me at all. All the people who were saying it's a psyop, these people are ridiculous. The people who think that Taylor Swift is a psyop are only bested by the people who think that Israel trying to eradicate Hamas is a war crime. Oh, they don't stop with that nonsense. When Hamas is destroyed, everything will be better. How come there's not pressure for Hamas to surrender, Hamas to give up? When does it start? Oh, no. Israel is guilty of war crimes. I was talking about this today. War crime. They get attacked. They go after the attacker. All of a sudden, they're bad people. They're just indiscriminately killing. It's so gross. These Hamas lovers are freaks. The PSYOP people are underneath that. Find everything at TonyKatz.com tomorrow, everyone. Take care.